My name's Stephen Loyd. I'm the Acting Chief of Medicine and the Associate Chief for Staff of Education at the Mountain Home VA. 10 years ago, I was addicted to prescription narcotics myself. I was using about 500 milligrams of opiates a day, in addition to a lot of benzodiazepines, mainly Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, and had basically thought my life was over at that point. I went to bed half the nights praying that I wouldn't die of an overdose and the other half praying that I would. And I got help and realized, because of my role as an associate professor in a medical school, that I could have an impact on trainees, mainly medical students and residents, who get little to no training on either addiction or prescribing narcotics. Everybody looks at so-called pill mills or doctors that write the drugs freely. The majority of people are first-time use, get it out of mine and your medicine cabinets. I think the number is somewhere around 70% of first-time users acquire the medication from somebody's drug cabinet. I hear doctors say, well, we're not law enforcement. It's not our job. But our job is to recognize disease and recognize risk factors for disease, just like we would heart disease with diabetes or high blood pressure. We need to recognize risk factors for folks who could potentially abuse prescription narcotics. And those risk factors are pretty well defined. And it's our job at that point to intervene, to not propagate the problem, and then get them proper treatment for their addiction. It's one of the most treatable diseases we have. Prescriber education is incredibly important. As I said, we're the guys with the pens. And if you look at medical training, both from medical student and residency, we get almost no education on writing controlled substances. So until we understand the power that the drugs that we are prescribing have and the potential for problems, then we're not going to get very far. We have to understand addiction. We have to understand the power of addictive disease and why somebody would prefer to take a drug rather than take care of their kids. So provider education is where this all starts. It's not going to be the end, but it is for sure the start. And then utilizing tools that have been given to us by the federal government and our individual states with things like prescription monitoring, data bank, drug testing, holding people accountable, and then making proper referrals. Those are all parts of this. There's a couple of ways that I think that we could get prescribers more involved. One, and that you would think that just the altruism that we have in us as providers would want us to be engaged. I now know that in my state, the state of Tennessee, we have more people die of accidental drug overdoses than we do automobile deaths. So just that alone is enough to get most of the folks I know engaged. But at some point, we have to look at legislating it. If we can't get folks to the table, and there's all kinds of excuses, and I don't have time, and shrinking reimbursements, but if I remember back to when I when I applied for medical school, I wrote down on my application that I wanted to help people. Well, I still do. And I think that a lot of folks out there still do, and the ones that don't may have to have it legislated. I may get shot for saying that. Sorry, guys. Can I have a second to think about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question.
The biggest difference that now that I'm in recovery is how I view this disease. The fact that it is a disease. And that people have a lot in their lives in the past that they have to deal with in order to get better from this disease. And it's allowed me to get outside of myself and become a kinder, more humble, more compassionate person. To be honest with you, I like myself better. And to watch people get better has been the biggest thrill for me, and far above anything else I've ever experienced in medicine. So that's the difference for me, and it drives me. It makes me passionate. At times it makes me want to fight, but watching the incredible miracles that happen in people's lives is something that I feel is a privilege.